It's my pleasure to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Lapalombella, who really is a great leader for our program, a true colleague, and is one of these people that really makes our programs better. So, welcome.
Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Moeller, for the very kind introduction. So today, I would like to share with you a story of opportunity. I'm going to take you back to 1996 when I left my hometown in the southern part of Italy, and I was the first one and ended up being the last one of my only one of my family who went to college. I went to University of Bologna. At that time, I wanted to study biological science, but I didn't know where the future was going to take me, and that's when a life-changing event happened. I lost a very good friend to a type of cancer called leukemia. And at that time, it was very unacceptable, and it was really hard to explain. But I knew back then that I was going to make a difference in my life, and I wanted to do something for this type of leukemia. So that's when I enrolled in a PhD program in biotechnology, graduated 2006, and that's when I was really fortunate to win a fellowship of 6 months to just conduct a research experience abroad. And that, along with my passion for leukemia, it took me to join the laboratory of Dr. John Bird, a very famous researcher studying a type of leukemia called chronic lymphocytic leukemia. So 6 months on the road, I was having fun, research was going great, but my fellowship was ended, and that's when, thanks to the opportunity made possible by one of Dr. Bird's donor, I was able to stay longer, and here I am 13 years later. So chronic lymphocytic leukemia is the most prevalent type of adult leukemia. Indeed, just last year in the US, about 20,000 new cases of this disease were diagnosed. This is a slowly growing cancer, and it's characterized by the accumulation of those cells that you heard from Dr. Olds. They're called B cells, and when they build out throughout the body, what they do, they don't function normally, and at the very beginning, the disease may show no symptoms, but later on, in the evolution of this disease, they're like very, very severe symptoms like bleeding, weight loss, recurrent infections. They can really compromise any normal activities of those patients. They really require treatment at this point. Now, we are very fortunate that the treatment landscape of CLL, this disease, in the past 10 years has really witnessed a lot of evolution. We went from chemotherapy at the time I joined the lab, with all the toxicity associated with that, to very specific therapy, which we call targeted therapies, that really only hit the tumor cells and leave all the healthy cells untouched. And just to give you an example for CLL, the most, beautiful example is the story of ibrutinib. It's a pill that patients take every day for their entire life. And what this pill does, it kills the tumor cells and allows these patients to live a longer life without the toxic effect of chemotherapy and just being active. How amazing is that? Was just incredible. Thank you. Now, the problem is that despite all of this, they have to take the pill for their entire duration of life, because this disease is still incurable. So there are some patients that, unfortunately, they don't respond to ibrutinib. Others, they stop responding, and others, their leukemia transformed to a different type of cancer called lymphoma, a process known as Richter Transformation. Now, when this happens, the life expectation becomes really short, because we really don't have anything to do for this type of patients. Despite all the progress in CLL, there's nothing being done for Richter. Now imagine the devastation of these patients and their loved one that not only have experienced cancer once, but now they're fighting it twice. And imagine how impactful it would be if we'd be able to identify a switch that really is driving this transformation process. We'll be potentially able to control it, predict it, or even cure it. So the problem we are facing trying to solve this puzzle is that we don't have any models to study Richter transformation in the lab. There are just none. The only thing we have is patients-derived samples that we can study. And we are very fortunate at OSU because we see the larger volume in all US of patients with this disease. So we have access to those samples. And just by looking at samples at the time of the CLL and at the time of Richter, we were able to identify a few candidates that we thought we could direct target therapies to it. And by doing that, we'll be blocking this transformation process. Now, all of those studies, we really wanted to do it, but they're very expensive. And for someone like me starting the lab, I didn't have the money to do that. So, and for those of you who are not familiar with getting your science funded through the National Institute of Health or any other foundation for that matter, this is a very tough process. I explained it to my 9-year-old. She came up with this picture. Those are the reviewers. They won't kill you, but it will kill your application. So, and if you ask any scientist, they will tell you really have to have most of your science done to be able to convince any reviewers to find your science. So in other words, there's little to no room for high risk, high rewards ideas. Do you still believe in research grant? So well, here is opportunity number 2 for me. About 10 years ago, 2,000 cyclists, they rode one event in Columbus that had one goal, to help cure cancer. They call it Pelotonia. 10 years later, this event is going strong. It became the largest community-based philanthropic event. And why am I telling all of this? Is because Pelotonia had a program to fund high-risk, high-reward ideas. And that's what gave me the first money to do my research and just to produce preliminary data. And look what happened. Now, even 3 years later, the return of investment was amazing. I was able to expand my lab, hire more people, produce some papers, get more funding, 50 times more the original investment, and also develop new drugs, new concept for clinical trial. Now, you may be maybe all impressed by this, but if you ask anybody, nobody is ever getting their funding through the process I just explained to you. And what makes OSU so special is that in our culture, we have this culture of mentorship where we start very early with our students to really engage them and get them through this pipeline. And how can we do that? Well, we can do that because we are fortunate to have many philanthropic-based fellowship that allowed us to recruit the students and to take those to this pipeline. And what you don't realize is for many, this is the very first introduction to medical research. For others, this really launches the beginning of impressive careers. So just to explain you, this is some of the amazing fellowship we have. I really want to highlight 3 stories to tell you how impactful all you do is for these people. So Dalia Al-Gamal, she is originally from Egypt, got her PhD in Austria, and in 2013, she landed in my lab. She was my first postdoc. Now, because of her visa status, she was not eligible to get in any other fellowship except for Pelotonia. So her research, she was very fortunate to be able to have 2 years salary support to study Richter Transformation. Well, look what happened 5 years later. Her research went strong. She published in a very prestigious journal. She was able to receive funding through the National Institute of Health through a career development award, and most importantly, she was offered a job to start her own lab as an associate professor. Or the story of Shauna Collins. This was a young Alabama student that joined OSU in 2011 as an undergrad. She joined the laboratory of Dr. Don Benson, I know some of you in this room know, to do some research on another type of blood cancer called multiple myeloma. Now, what was very special about Shauna is that she didn't know she wanted to do medicine. She knew she wanted to do some, science. And her research was so impactful that she was able to present as first author in a very prestigious international meeting and also published her own paper, first author, which is very uncommon for undergrad. But most importantly, it was Shauna's work that really led to the approval of this drug called elotuzumab for patients with multiple myeloma because it really was showing improvement in survival. And because of this very early experience, Shauna decided to enroll in the medical program, and now she is leading a career in pediatric hematology oncology. And another beautiful example comes from the Hendricks program. This is a fellowship sponsored by the Burr family, and it brings students from a very small college, Hendricks, which is the sponsor alma mater to OSU, just to let them experience what it feels to be in a large and renowned university. And by doing this, we were very grateful to have a student like Sydney Fabar. She's originally from Nashville, went to Hendricks for conducting her Bachelor of Art in Chemistry. And then she was able to come to our lab for 2 summers in a row, 2015 and 2016, for 2 10-weeks-long experience. Very short time, period, but in that time, she was able to contribute so much for a new drug for leukemia that, again, she was able to present in this international meeting, a forum of over 20,000 people from all over the world, and publish her paper. And now she was exposed to the life as a physician scientist, and that's what she wants to be. And she just enrolled in an MD PhD program at OSU. So all of this to tell you that we really have an incredible structure at OSU to really mentorship and take the students from early on. And as I reflect back on my 13 years at OSU, none of this impact on the students, on the institution, on the patients will really be possible between the support of people like you and the fellowship program. So I really thank you for all you do.